I transmigrated into a terminal heart patient with 3 days left to live, and somehow got picked by the admin of a horror dungeon, who made me sign a soul contract to become his personal dungeon designer. Just when the admin thought I'd build some nightmare death trap, I quietly put together a Gao Cow prep book, 5 years of exams, 3 years of practice, and made a dungeon with a 0 death rate. Because in this world, there's no college entrance exam. Nobody here knows this is a terror worse than death. At that moment, the admin laid the contract right in front of me. Designers these days have 0 creativity. I need you to build a brand new dungeon, minimum 90% death rate. I smiled and looked at him. Is that really all your horror dungeons are going for? That's so basic. Real horror isn't death, it's wanting to die, but not being able to. I want to grind every last bit of humanity out of them, trap them in a loop of pure despair. He raised an eyebrow. Interesting, so what are you thinking? I held up one finger. First, I'm designing a dungeon with a 0 death rate. As for the rest, you'll see. If the negative energy collected doesn't hit the target, my soul is yours. The admin gave me a long, meaningful look. You're that confident? Fine, I'll give you one shot. You can handpick the first batch of players yourself. My eyes lit up. I immediately pulled up the system screen. In the corner of the screen, a woman was hanging off some rich kid's arm, laughing like she didn't have a care in the world. That was Chen Shui, the original host's ex. The second she found out he was terminally ill, she dumped him on the spot, and now she's already latched onto a new sugar daddy. I pointed straight at her. I want her in the first round of the horror college entrance exam. The moment those words left my mouth, a crimson countdown appeared on Chen Shui's arm, and the system chime rang out. Congratulations, player Chen Shui has been selected, entering SSS rank dungeon, Gao Cow. When she opened her eyes again, she was standing in the middle of a blood-red plaza. Dozens of people surrounded her, most of them just as lost and confused as she was. That's when a scarred man stepped forward. Everyone stay calm. This is a horror dungeon. Name's Lei Biao. I've cleared 3 dungeons. I'm a veteran. Follow my lead, look around for cover. Right at that moment, the admin's figure appeared floating above the plaza. Welcome, examinees. I'm Yisha, your proctor. This dungeon is called Gao Cow. No monsters hunting you down, no death penalty. Study hard for the next 5 months. Place in the top 5 on the final exam, and you walk free. The crowd instantly erupted. No death penalty. This isn't a horror dungeon. This is basically a vacation. Chen Xue let out a long breath. It's just studying. Who can't do that? Only Lei Biao frowned. No death penalty, and so how is negative energy even being collected? But before he could figure it out, Yisha waved her hand. Orientation begins now. The scene shifted instantly. Everyone found themselves inside a bright, perfectly normal classroom. Too normal, actually. Normal enough to feel wrong. Just then, a female teacher walked in. What are you all staring at? Find your seats. Morning reading starts now. The vibe was intimidating, but since nobody could die, people moved slow and sloppy. Then a bleach blonde delinquent whistled and kicked his feet up on the desk. Come on, teacher. Morning reading? Isn't this supposed to be a horror dungeon? Give us something exciting. The teacher stopped. She stared at him, dead silent. The next second, her neck stretched, shooting forward until her face was inches from his. Put your feet down. The kid jolted and yanked his feet back instantly. Then the teacher's head snapped toward Chen Shui, who was touching up her makeup. Chen Shui froze and forced a smile. Teacher, I was just doing my makeup, that's all. Without a word, a massive pair of scissors appeared in the teacher's hand. She grabbed Chen Yue's hair and snipped. Students should look like students. Your hair is too long. It's stunting your brain development. Chen Shui grabbed her head and screamed. The teacher frowned and slapped her across the face. The force sent Chen Shui flying straight into the wall. You're too loud. You're disturbing the class. Dead silence fell over the room. The teacher stepped up to the podium and adjusted her glasses. We will now begin morning reading. Everyone open your language arts book to page 5. Memorize the memorial to the throne. Anyone who doesn't finish doesn't eat breakfast. They had no choice but to open their books and comply. But to them, classical Chinese like this was basically a foreign language. The ones who already hated studying looked like they wanted to throw up. Morning reading dragged on forever. But finally, after a full hour, the bell rang. The teacher closed her book. Class dismissed. You have 2 minutes. She turned and walked out. Everyone had complaints about the 2-minute break, but still sprinted to the bathroom like their lives depended on it. Chen Jue was a little slow and ended up last. She had just barely unzipped her pants when the bell suddenly blasted. She reappeared in her seat instantly. Chen Xue frantically scrambled to zip back up, while the teacher stared at her coldly from the podium. Miss Chen Xue, indecent appearance, inappropriate conduct. Stand in the back for the rest of this class. Chen Xue shuffled to the back in humiliation. Every shred of her dignity had been destroyed in those 2 minutes. Watching from the screen, I let out a cold smirk. This is exactly what I wanted. Physical pain? That's nothing. It's the mental damage that really breaks people. That whole morning was pure hell for them. They'd never experienced anything like this. Non-stop, high-intensity cram schooling. The second Chinese class ended, the math teacher walked in. He talked like a machine gun. Anyone who zoned out got a piece of chalk fired straight at their forehead. They barely survived until noon, starving, running on empty. Just when they thought they'd finally get to eat, the math teacher didn't budge. He glanced down at his watch. A lot of you still don't get this last problem. We're running over so nobody falls behind. He kept them for a full 40 minutes. By the time he finally dismissed them, the cafeteria had been wiped clean. Nothing left but a few empty metal buckets. One guy dropped to his knees in despair, scraping the dried residue off the inside of a bucket. Chen Shui was so hungry she could barely see straight. Then lunch break ended just like that, and they were back in class. That's when the bleach blonde kid suddenly shot to his feet. I'm done! I want to go home! So what if I didn't get into college? Why do I have to put up with this? I'd rather die than stay here. He bolted straight for the window, smashed through the glass, and jumped. The whole class watched in horror. Some people even closed their eyes, too scared to see what came next, but the scene they braced for never happened. There was just a soft click, like a game respawn, and the kid was back in his seat, completely unharmed. Even the window had reset. He just sat there, frozen. He patted himself down. The relief of being alive barely had time to register before a test paper floated down onto his desk. The math teacher leaned in close. Skipping class is a serious violation. As punishment, you'll complete this entire advanced math problem set by end of day. No sleep until it's done. In that moment, every last light in his eyes went out. I watched the pale-faced players from outside the screen. This is lesson 1. Here, death isn't the ending, it's the price of skipping class. Dying isn't that easy. Sit down and study until you drop. Yisha stood beside me, watching the negative energy meter shoot through the roof. Those eyes, once full of bloodlust, were now sparkling. You're a twisted genius. The negative energy we collected this one morning is more than I got in the past month. I didn't bother with the compliment. My eyes were locked on Chen Shui in the corner of the screen. Chen Shui, we're just getting started. Wait till the pep rally. I'll show you what real psychological torture looks like. By the time evening came and school let out, hunger was hitting harder than any ghost ever could. Everyone was running on empty, but they still pushed and shoved their way toward the cafeteria. They missed lunch, but surely by dinner there'd at least be something left, right? Even leftovers would do. But the moment they saw the cafeteria windows, every single one of them felt their hearts sink.